This week I actually wrote about lay-by, this concept where you pay, you identify an item you want, you leave it at the shop, and you pay it off over a period of time with no interest or any fees attached to it. Mapelo, I think lay-bys have become less of a, perhaps less used as credit has become so popular. But do you know, have you ever used lay-by, this kind of system of lay-by?
Yeah, I haven't. But after having read your article, I remember growing up, and I thought, actually, let me phone my mom because I know for sure that she has used lay-by many, many, many times. And I remember growing up, during Christmas, as young kids, we'd get new clothes. It was the highlight of our year, okay? And my mom tells me, and I knew this, but after having a conversation with her, she said, every single time, 6 months before, there was 4 of us, and she was taking care of the entire flipping village. So she would go lay-by clothes for 6 months, and she'd go pay bit by bit, bit by bit, bit by bit. Then at the end, when it was December, when it was Christmas, we'd have these clothes, and she wouldn't owe anyone. We would all be happy, would all be beaming, would all be the talk of the village because, we were looking nice.
But that's the thing with lay-bys, it almost creates a forced saving. So instead of, you create that savings kind of culture. And in the article I wrote, I related a story about I've bought on lay-by. So when I was, I think, 14 or 15 years old, there was this jersey that I really wanted. It was actually in Jet in Randburg when I lived in Joburg. So, and I wanted this, and I didn't have enough money for my pocket money. And of course, in those days, A, you didn't have store cards, B, they wouldn't give a store card to a 14-year-old. So I bought this jersey on lay-by, and I paid it off over 3 months. And I have such a clear memory of that jersey. I even remember exactly what it looked like and paying it off. And I wonder to what degree lay-by has fallen away because credit is so easy. So, now you can put it on your store card, and we just forget the implications of that, the interest that we're going to pay, the fees we're going to pay, what happens if we miss a payment. And I don't know, Mapelo, your mother, does she still use lay-by? Do you think people have just forgotten about it altogether?
Yeah, I think that mostly people have forgotten about it. If you talk to my friends, no one ever speaks of lay-by. I don't even think they know the concept of how it works, right? Because credit cards, they're so instant. You can put anything on a store card, on a credit card. So it's instant, there's no saying, I can wait for 3 months. I can wait for 6 months. So it's madness, just the direction we've taken. But sure, my mom doesn't use lay-by anymore. From the same concepts that I've learned from her, she saves literally from the TVs in our house, the couches in our house. Remember, I even told you, I still have couches. I'm looking at them right now. It just drives me crazy. But they will stay here until I'm ready to buy the type of couches I want. And I'm not willing to get those on credit. Yeah. But largely, to big extent, I don't think if I called any of my friends right now, they'd be like, lay-by, what?
I think the lay-by market still exists in some of the retailers like Pep Hazard and Ackermans. But I think one of the big challenges with lay-by, if you think about it, I go and I swipe my store card, and then I pay my minimum installment, on my online banking. It's really, really easy to do. So lay-by apparently sits, you have to go and you have to take the item, you fill out a contract, agreement with them, and then you've got to still, believe it or not, physically go and pay every month. So it means you've got to get in your car, into the taxi or whatever transport, and go.
So that's more money.
Exactly.
More money trying to access this thing.
So I think it's been in the interests of, okay, I'm going to be mean, but I think it is in the interests of retailers to promote credit because they make money out of credit, and they haven't made lay-by that accessible. And that's actually what I wrote about in my article, is there are technologies now. I know actually Nedbank last year told me that they were coming to market with a lay-by solution at point of sale, but they've delayed it because of COVID. But really, where at point of sale, you would be able to pay for the item immediately and obviously leave it with the store, but be able to collect it once it was paid off. And then I wrote about LayUp, which is a technology that's being now rolled out to quite a lot of retailers, not the big ones yet, but hopefully they're obviously planning on doing so, where exactly that, and you can pay by, you can just transfer funds in to pay it off. It makes it really, really easy. So I'm going to be interested in that technology change, and if the shift in technology and making it basically exactly the same as using your store card, the only difference is, well, there's two big differences. One, you don't take possession of the item immediately.
Right away.
Yeah, you don't. You do have to wait for it. But there's no interest, no fees, and no penalties. So lay-by is actually covered under the Consumer Protection Act. And if you get to a point where you can't afford it or you choose not to buy it, they have to give you your money back. Less 1%. They can charge up to 1%, but if you've bought an item for, so say for example, it's a television and you've been paying it off, think about a hire purchase contract. So now, yes, you've got the television, you're paying it, but if you miss, month 3 or 4 because you lose your job, they go after you as a credit agreement. Okay. And it affects your credit
record. And it messes up your credit record as well.
Exactly. Now you get to maybe month 3, you can't afford to keep up that lay-by payment. You say they actually give you your money back. So at the time that you maybe lost your job and you can't afford, you actually get the money back. And the most they can take is, say, on a 10,000 Rand TV, they can take 100 Rand as a penalty. To me, that also, I think, will free up, make people a lot more comfortable because they're not getting caught into these contracts. And the other, so I think it is going to be interesting to see lay-by and whether this, how it performs. But I thought because of this lay-by article that I wrote, it did make me think about good debt and bad debt and ugly debt.
Ugly debt.
Ugly.
But before you do that, Maya, for me, what I found very interesting, it made my eyes pop like this. The fact that it can go towards your building your credit score as well.
That's it. I knew there was something as I was talking. Yeah.
For me, it's just like light bulbs went off. I'm like, oh my gosh, this would just be completely brilliant.
I'm so glad you remembered that, because as I was talking, I was thinking there's something I
could see.
So you can. So one of the big things, what do we get, Mapelo? People saying, how do I build my credit record without taking on credit? The lay-by can do that for you. So once this technology is in place, as I said, hopefully these more and more retailers will sign up for it, but it will actually connect into the credit bureau. So you are able to buy an item on lay-by without paying interest or fees, and that builds up as part of your payment profile on your credit record. And I think that's
amazing.
That
is amazing.
Yeah.
Mind blowing.
I'm really currently,
I know, but currently it can't do that, or because I know LayUp, they're still working on the technology. Okay.
Yeah, so LayUp is, I think they're in 30 merchants already, 30 retailers, but they're
so
not.
All you need to do, right? I know, but I mean, all you need to do right now, look for what the merchants that they have on their platform and go there and say, you know what, I'm going to lay-by for the next 6 months or 8 months just to make it longer. So you create that credit record, credit history. For me, that is brilliant, Maya.
Yeah, so one of the online retailers they're with is something called Epic Deals. And Epic Deals does pre-loved technology. So if you're buying a secondhand cell phone or laptop or whatever, so that's also actually quite a nice one to if you're wanting to use LayUp and start developing your credit record, and you may need a phone or a laptop or something like that. So they are, I think, very much into creating the market. And in fact, they first came out, when I first came across them, was in travel. This is, of course, pre-COVID. And
you might have to take a look at it now.
Yeah. So you booked a holiday. So say, for example, you only wanted to travel in 18 months' time as a lovely overseas holiday. You booked the tickets, the accommodation, everything. So you had your pricing fixed, and then you paid it off. So by the time you flew on your trip, it was paid off. And I think it was called FOMO Travel when I first came across them. So I'm just really all for anything that creates A, the discipline of saving towards something, and B, doesn't bury us with interest and fees and all of those things. So, yeah.
And It builds up your credit score.
And a credit score, which is what we're all after, because one day we are going to want to buy something like a car or a house or something that requires a credit score. So I think that is a huge advantage. So well remembered, Mapula. I was testing to see whether you'd read my article.
I just know you, Maya. I could see that you're forgetting something. Okay, the good, bad, and very ugly. Where do we start?
No, okay. So let me start by asking you this question. What do you, in your view, what do you consider good debt and bad debt, or good credit and bad credit?
You know what? I've never believed there's such thing as good debt. I mean, debt is debt. You owe someone, you need to pay it back, right? But I've kind of come to my senses just a teeny tiny bit, in that the equity that you built in your house can help you later on if you do want to buy another property, and you know you have an access bond. So for me, in that sense, it's okay. With your credit card, if you wanted to build your credit report, obviously, sure. But as soon as we start talking about credit card for consumption and maintaining a lifestyle, overdraft, personal loans that you can't even pinpoint where it went to, for me, that is horrific debt that just buries you and keeps people in debt for years and years and years without ever getting a breather. So that debt is the complete horrific one.
Yeah, I suppose for me, it's about, am I borrowing money to improve my life? So is there going to be a return on whatever I'm borrowing money for? And that can be in various forms as well. Like you said, your home. So it's very hard to save enough cash to buy your house. Okay, so generally speaking, a home loan but your home loan is giving it's a place to live, and it's building capital, and it's an asset, and there's a whole lot of positive things that go with it. And I always think, when you get your bank statement from your home loan statement, if you look at the interest portion, don't look at the total repayment, just look at that interest portion that you pay every month. It'll tell you it's like interest allocated, and think of that as rent. Then it kind of, to me, it says, okay, I could be paying rent to a landlord, but I'm paying interest at the moment. And then obviously the capital payment that I'm making is helping me pay off the house. So for me, I kind of can see home loan as positive debt. I think car financing as well. You do not want to take on car financing. We know this. But car financing, if you don't have the cash to buy a car, it is getting you to work, for example. But Mapula, of course, as we always say, that doesn't mean you need to go and spend 500,000 Rand on a car. Because 120,000 Rand car gets you from A to B as well.
Absolutely.
So somewhere along the line, the amount you spend on the car turns it from good credit to bad credit. Okay. And what about, the other one I think is student loans. Those could have a payback period. What are your views? I mean, on a student loan?
Well, I mean, for me, I definitely would say if you don't have any other option, you can't get a bursary, you can't afford from your own pocket, definitely, because it is something that hopefully will give you a skill, will give you this qualification where you can get a job and make sure that your life gets better. So for me, student loans, I say definitely. And remember, with student loans, you only start paying off, I think, the capital amount, if I'm not incorrect, once you have completed your studies, and they give you like a grace period of about 6 months to 8 months or something like that. Then you can start taking on the full payment. But for me, it's definitely good credit. But also, if you take on way too much every single year, maybe if you can say, okay, I'm going to find work, start working and study part-time after maybe your degree or honors, then that's the way to go. But I think it's not bad credit.
Yeah, and one of the things that I like about student loans, and this is what I come across quite often, is that parents don't want their children to take the responsibility of a student loan. So, and we came across this actually in Moneymaker, I think last year's one, it's not these candidates from the year before, where the mom was paying on her credit card the school fee, the university fees. She was and that's not a clever strategy, because you can actually get a student loan at prime interest rate, whereas your credit card is going to be multiples of that. So I think for me, that's where the good and bad debt also comes in, is understanding that, okay, I want to fund my university fees. How do I do that in a good way? And
Mm,
rather take a student loan, even as a parent, maybe you feel you can still take responsibility for those repayments,
yes,
but
yes.
rather create it as a student loan than putting it on your credit card. So I think also, even within making those choices, you can choose the right kind of credit for it.
Absolutely,
um,
absolutely. And
and
it's very similar to I've seen some people buying properties and they get shocked by the fact that there's lawyers' fees and all sorts of things. Then they go and get a personal loan, which is the interest rate is just that much high. So I think that's a very key thing, that even in making those decisions, we must be aware of everything that comes with it. So I love that.
Yeah, and I think even, you spoke about personal loans, and I was actually asked the other day, like, when is there ever a good time to have a personal loan? And of course, you and I would say never. But again, there are times that a personal loan can work. Maybe you want to renovate your home and you don't have a home loan. You may not, your house may have been paid off, you don't have a home loan, and you need to do a house renovation. Again, that may be improving your property. So I think there are times that even a personal loan, but I just think what people fail to do so often, Mapelo, is to look at the total cost. So they say, oh, the bank system, oh, we'll give you a personal loan. You can pay it off over 5 years and pay back 1,000 Rand a month. And they say, oh, that's affordable. But they don't ask the important question is, what if I paid it off over 3 years? What if I took a 3-year
Yes.
personal loan and paid maybe a little bit more, maybe 1,200 Rand a month? And then compare what is that total cost over the period. And the longer you keep paying off, the longer that extended loan period of the loan, it is going to cost you so much more. So I think that's also another mistake people often make with credit agreements, is just not understanding that difference between,
Mm.
like, you can take a personal loan, but there's a good way to take a personal loan and there's a bad way to take a personal loan.
Yes, yes. And also, I think people just not being aware that check your credit score. I think oftentimes we don't realize that you also have a negotiating power as a client, as a consumer, to go and say, you know what, my credit score is perfect. I've been good. And can you take a look at giving me a lower credit score? And not just being married to your bank. You're not married to your bank. You can look at different banks. That's why competition is so brilliant. That's why competition is amazing, is that you can go to different banks and show them your credit report and say, you know what, I've been good. Here's the proof to show it. Can I get a lower interest rate? So there's definitely numerous ways to go about getting and consuming credit.
Absolutely. And we've spoken a little bit about good credit and bad credit, and I want to talk about ugly credit.
Okay.
Because these, I completely acknowledge that, maybe you need to take on a personal loan to renovate or whatever, but there are some loan agreements that are actually just so shocking they shouldn't be allowed. Okay. So I would list mine. I want to see what your list would be. Mine is balloon payment on a car finance. Okay.
I knew you were going to say that.
That's just ugly credit. Do not have a balloon. That's not even bad. That's just like ugly. And my other one is really is credit cards when you're paying only the minimum installment, because you are just basically now
You'll never pay that.
your eternal debt. You will never ever pay that credit card off. You're only paying the minimum. So to me, that's the other ugly one. And I also don't generally like anything that's a facility. A credit facility. So a credit facility is you can go to the bank and they'll offer you a personal loan and you say it'll be paid off over 3 years, or they'll offer you a credit facility. And the credit facility says, we'll give you 20,000 Rand credit facility and you can use it as and when. So as you pay in, you can take out again. So that credit facility never ever closes down. It's always there, and you have no idea over time what it's costing you, because you can't really get a handle on it, because money goes in, money comes out. And it's probably the most destructive type of credit for me. So and I suppose credit cards fall into that space if they're managed like that.
Yeah.
Installment
And overdraft. Yeah.
and overdrafts as well, where you're just constantly never really paying it off. It just becomes a way for you to maintain your lifestyle. To me, those are the ugly ones.
Definitely ugly. With overdraft, I remember a couple that I did a coaching session with 2 years ago, I think it was already. And the husband, I think, earned about 70,000, and literally he had 60,000 worth of overdraft. So his salary would go in. So I said this to them. I said, do you realize because of this overdraft, you actually really only earn 10,000 Rand? And I think no one had ever said it to them that way. So for me, that was a wake-up call. Definitely, those are completely ugly. But another one that I don't think people are aware of is taking on credit on someone else's behalf.
Okay, there's another category for that. That's not even ugly. That's like Armageddon. That's like
That's just like,
nuclear explosion that did.
no, do not do it. The reason why I'm saying this, and I'm glad that we brought this conversation up, I got a DM from one of my tribe members, and she said, I have been drowning in debt since I finished varsity because I took on debt to buy a personal loan at that, to buy a car from one of my uncles or something. And it's just been horrific. It's been a horrific 2 years since, but she's over it now. But it was complete nightmare. So do not take on debt on anyone. If they cannot pay it, it is yours.
So I had somebody contacting me saying that this is the other side of it. So she borrowed money from a friend to buy a car. The friends now come to her and said, no, but I borrowed that money from a mashonisa and I have to pay it back. And now the friend is saying that they're getting threatening calls and this woman needs to sell her car. And she's saying, well, why must I do that? And is this real? And I said to her, you borrowed money from a friend who claims that they borrowed it from mashonisa. You don't actually know where that friend got the money from, but it's become this massive, now that friendship's gone. I mean, it's horrendous.
No, completely.
Yeah, and you know what we picked up also in Money Makeover? It was, which one of our candidates? One of our candidates was using his credit card for friends. So friends would come and borrow money, and he would take it out his credit card. And then they paid him back without interest. Sometimes they paid him back. They didn't always pay him back. It was one of the reasons that he had such incredibly high credit card balance. So I just don't get this. Like, if the bank won't lend that person money, the bank has felt they're high risk. And what about joint? Okay, this is probably another topic though. We probably wouldn't be able to cover this sufficiently. No, I'm just thinking about joint bonds because I'm picking up a lot of problems now. So what's happening now? People have gone into and had joint mortgages. Usually often friends have got together, or they're a couple, they're not maybe married, but they're living together, and they've taken out a joint bond, and one of them's lost their jobs now and they can't pay.
Yeah. The other one has to carry the entire balance, not just half of it. Whatever you can't pay, it falls on the other person to fully pay the full amount. So that's also a disaster. Yeah. That's the very ugly.
You need to have, if you are going to have a joint mortgage, you actually have to have a contract between the two of you. A separate contract about what happens if ... that you both sign, and that's legally enforceable. Because I'm definitely picking up, I think COVID's throwing up a lot of these issues.
No, absolutely. Yeah, Maya, we can talk quite a lot on credit. There's some good. There's definitely some good to using credit to build up your life, to better your life for sure. But there's the very bad and extremely ugly side of credit as well.
So I think for me, it is just, only borrow, if it's something that is going to improve your life. And by the way, a pair of shoes is not going to improve your life. Let's just mention that. So if something's going to improve your life, it's going to add to your wealth creation, that's okay. If you are going to borrow, make sure you understand the full fees, the total cost over the whole period, and just try and stick to credit agreements that have an end date and that you don't get caught up in these revolving credit facilities that I just really, really don't like. And of course, never take a balloon payment on your car.
Do not ever take a balloon payment on your car. Maya will.